Hi, I'm Donald McIntyre, founder of Etherplan, and in this video I'm going to talk about affirming my Ethereum Classic price predictions, which are 1,000 in 2022, 8,700 in 2025, and 33,000 in 2029. Now we are in a correction, in a strong market downturn. ETC, Bitcoin is trading at 34,500 more or less, and it is very difficult to think of price targets for Bitcoin, for example, of 100,000 or 125,000 for this year, as is my prediction, and even more difficult to think of price targets of a million, which have been price targets that we have been talking about since 2012, 2013. However, the market is not only has these cycles, but also psychologically goes through cycles as well. No, and we've been talking about Bitcoin being half a million or a million since 2013. In my case, many other people have the same opinion. And when it was trading in 2013 at 30, or it went to 260 and then down to 80, it was very difficult to imagine how it would reach a million, no, or half a million. But when by the end of that year it was trading at 1,200 here in this cycle that we can't even see now, everybody was thinking the psychology changed, and everybody thought that it was very rational to think of a Bitcoin worth $1 million now. Then we had the crypto winter between 2013 and 2017, and again it went to 20,000 here in this area, and everybody was cheerful and everybody was positive, and psychologically was acceptable that a long-term price target of half a million or a million was very reasonable. And again, we had another between 2017 and 2021, another crypto winter, as they call it. And when it went in 2019, when it was trading at 3,000 or 3,000, between 3,000 and 4,000, of course, it became absolutely irrational for people like me and others to say, or people saw us as irrational when we kept saying that it was going to go to 100,000, half a million, or a million. And of course, then we had the 2021 bull market cycle, and it went to 64,000 first, then it corrected to 30,000, and it went to 69,000 again. And every time it goes up, everybody gains more confidence in the long-term price targets. So it becomes reasonable again to talk about 100,000 or 200,000, half a million, or a million in the long term. Of course, now we are, as I record this video, we are in this correction. So Bitcoin is trading at 34,000. I think it touched 31,000 or 32,000 yesterday or today. And it seems absolutely crazy to continue talking about 100,000 or 125,000 for 2022. But I still stand by my predictions, and I think that Bitcoin is going to be trading above 100,000 by June, July of this year, or within this year, 2022. So this long-term chart is just to show the psychology, how we go changing psychologically with the cycles. But I think that the good investor is a long-term investor. You hold and you never sell, and I think that the price targets are going to become very rational again suddenly psychologically when the market starts to go up again. Let's see the same cycles but for ETC. This is ETC. I think it's going to go to 1,000 this year. I'm going to explain why and how in a minute. But and the same thing happened in 2016. We were trading at less than $1, and then in the 2017 bull market cycle it went to 40, 44, and suddenly it became absolutely rational that ETC was going to one day be worth hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. At this time I was not following ETC very closely. I was working mainly on Ethereum and Bitcoin. But in 2018, when I started to work full time for Ethereum Classic, for ETC Dev, this company, is when I communicated for the first time. At the time, my price target was 5,000 in the long term, 10-year price target that I adjusted to 7,000 for several reasons. And of course, with ETC in the winter after the 2017 cycle, when it was trading at 5, 4, 3, people that would hear me talking about 5,000, 7,000 thought that it was absolutely crazy. That all changed during 2021 when this cycle of the last year came, the bull market cycle, and ETC went to nearly 200. It went to 180. Everybody was positive and cheerful about Ethereum Classic because of its fundamentals that I'm going to talk about in a minute, and also because when the price goes up, and when you're trading at 3 or 4 or 5 or 8, the distance to 1,000, for example, it sounds too far away and a crazy kind of price target. But when it reaches 180, 100, 150, 180, or close to 200, then the distance is much shorter. So psychologically, everybody starts to think that it's very feasible to get to 1,000. I think the good investor is someone who understands the fundamentals, understands that these are cycles, and we're talking about holding for the long term, and we should stick to our price targets as long as they make sense in terms of fundamentals and rationale, no? And the logic. But now ETC traded in the last 24 hours at 21, and it's now trading at 23.39. And of course, it becomes, even though I may keep my price target of 1,000 now and 8,700 for 2025 and 33,000 per ETC by 2029, it starts to sound absolutely crazy. And like I showed in the previous cycles in Bitcoin and Ethereum Classic, that's how it works. No, when we are in a bull market, everything starts to sound reasonable, and when we are in a bear market or a strong market correction, which is normal in crypto, then it starts to sound absolutely crazy. But I am sticking to my predictions for the following reasons. The first reason is that Ethereum Classic has very strong core fundamentals, and these are the 4 core fundamentals that I always point out. One is that it's proof of work, and proof of work is the most secure consensus mechanism in the world, and it's the only consensus mechanism that is going to keep a blockchain decentralized. The second one is that it's fully replicated, which is the second pillar of the security of any blockchain, which is that the data, all the transactions, all the accounts, all the balances, all the smart contracts, everything has to be fully replicated in all the nodes everywhere. In North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, the North Pole and the Southern Pole, and even nodes in space, machines that are running the protocol, they all need to have the database absolutely replicated everywhere, which is something that proof of stake blockchains are starting to violate, because in general they're going to go to sharding and fragmenting the database. The other thing about Ethereum Classic, which is not unique to Ethereum Classic, but it is unique in a base layer proof of work blockchain, is that it's programmable, has smart contracts, is identical to Ethereum, and Ethereum is going to move to proof of stake. So Ethereum Classic is going to stay as the largest proof of work blockchain that is also programmable. And last but not least, it has a fixed monetary policy. It's algorithmic, just like Bitcoin. The same way Bitcoin is going to have 21 million Bitcoins, and that's going to be the whole supply in the history of humanity. Ethereum Classic is going to have 210 million, and that's going to be all the supply that is going to ever exist in ETC. So these 4 fundamental pillars, I think, are the same, and they don't change whether the market is up or down. My next point is positioning. Ethereum Classic, because of these pillars and these fundamentals, is the sixth largest. If you see only the proof of work blockchains, which are going to be the base layer of the blockchain industry, it's the sixth largest blockchain. And when Ethereum, which is now proof of work, moves to proof of stake and it turns into Ethereum 2.0, which is the plan for 2022, then Ethereum Classic is going to automatically be number 5, the fifth largest proof of work blockchain in the world, but it's also programmable. So it's going to be the only proof of work blockchain, not the only one, the only large proof of work blockchain that is going to be also programmable with a fixed monetary policy. And when that happens, when Ethereum moves to Ethereum 2.0, you're going to have Bitcoin, which is not programmable, Dogecoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and then Ethereum Classic. And it's very likely that Ethereum Classic, when the market discovers this value, is going to go up and to be the second largest blockchain beside Bitcoin, because Dogecoin, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash don't have any difference to Bitcoin, and Ethereum Classic is programmable, therefore much more useful. This is also about positioning, and my point about positioning. Ethereum Classic, when it becomes the second largest blockchain in the world, it's going to be, together with Bitcoin, the base layer of the whole industry. You're going to have, at the base layer, you're going to have the most secure proof of work blockchains with fixed monetary policy, which are more secure but less scalable, and they're going to have higher fees per transaction. So this is where the proof of stake shitcoins are actually valuable, or actually provide a service, because they are going to be very scalable, as they're going to be proof of stake and sharded. They're going to have also other layers on top that provide more scalability, like channels and rollups. They're going to provide billions of transactions per day, while Bitcoin and Ethereum Classic, they provide a much smaller amount of transactions per day. But combined, if you put these systems combined in 2 layers, just like the internet works and many other systems work in layers and components, combined, they're going to provide the full blockchain experience, which is going to be scalable and secure at the same time. So in this context, the third layer are going to be the decentralized applications, or dApps, and those are going to be decentralized exchanges, NFTs, stable coins, loan systems, games, videos, and all the applications that can be built on a blockchain. And these guys are going to use not one blockchain, like only Ethereum 2.0 or only BNB. They're going to use a combination of blockchains, including Ethereum 2.0, BNB, Bitcoin, and Ethereum Classic. And together, all those components together are going to provide the experience of the blockchain, the full service experience of the blockchain. So I don't see a one blockchain one dApp, one blockchain kind of future. I see dApps using several blockchains, and they're going to be organized in these layers. Above the dApps, to be able to use them, us humans, we're going to use wallets, services like Coinbase and BNB, and other kinds of user interfaces. All the wallets and user interfaces are going to be here. And from here, just like with MetaMask, you can use Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. And with Trust Wallet, you can use Bitcoin, Ethereum Classic, BNB, etc. These wallets and interfaces are going to connect users to dApps, and the dApps are going to operate in a combined system and components of blockchains, which are going to include the base layer, the second layer, and some are going to provide scalability, others are going to provide security, sound monetary policy, low fees, etc. While everything is going to settle, like net out and settle at the base layer, and that transaction is going to have a higher fee. But the benefits of all the systems combined are going to produce this whole experience of the blockchain industry. Just like the internet today is many layers and several components, and all together provide the whole experience of what we call the internet. It's not really one product, it's many components. So my next point is, how are we going to reach these prices? The way I predict my prices, and my predictions are the same for 2022, 25, and 29, is first by projecting gold. The base layer blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum Classic are going to take over gold in the long term. Bitcoin itself is going to take over gold. And if gold is today around $9.5 trillion, in the future, if you project using inflation, in 2025 it's going to be worth around $10.3 trillion, and in 2029, $11.2 trillion. If Bitcoin continues to gain share as compared to gold, it should reach around 25% of the value of gold this year in 2022 in this cycle. And that's just the price of 125,000, which is my price target. A lot of people have a target of 100,000 and others have a target of 250,000. I think it's going to be around 125,000. And that's going to represent 25% of the share of gold. So here you have gold, and the shares that I put here are a share of the value of gold. And then Ethereum Classic is going to have a specific share of the value of Bitcoin. This year, I think that Ethereum Classic, once Ethereum 2.0 moves to proof of stake and leaves the space clear, people are going to realize that Ethereum Classic is much more valuable than Doge, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash. So it's going to go up in the ranks to number 2. And when that happens, it's going to have a value of more than $140 billion. And divided by 135 million ETC, which is going to be the supply in a few months, that's going to be a price per ETC of 1,055. So this is where I get my price target. You can read my articles and where I explain this in more detail. And ETC's share of Bitcoin is going to grow in time, and as Bitcoin gains share with gold, ETC is going to reach almost 1/2 of the value of Bitcoin, and it's going to a quarter of the value of Bitcoin, and that is going to mean $1.3 trillion approximately, which at the supply at the time is going to be a price per ETC of 8,700. And then when ETC reaches 50% of the value of gold, it's going to be around 5.6 trillion, which is going to be at the supply at the time, which is going to be around 166 million ETC. It's going to be $33,000 per ETC. So this is the logic of how I built my price targets. It all depends on the future value of gold and the concept that Bitcoin and Ethereum Classic as digital gold and programmable digital gold, they're going to gain share with respect to gold. Why ETC 50% of Bitcoin? Because usually in technical systems or operating systems and software and systems that have network effects in general, usually you have a big player that has 50% share of the whole market, and then the second, third, and fourth players, they have 1/2 of the previous one. So ETC is going to have 1/2 of Bitcoin, and the next one is going to have 1/2 of ETC, and the next one is going to be 1/2 of the third one, and all the rest are going to be insignificant. There's always going to be 3 or 4 big players at the base layer and 3 or 4 big players in layer 2. So I think Ethereum 2.0 is going to be the big player in layer 2, and then maybe BNB, and then Polkadot or Cardano, and then Solana and the others, and then the rest are going to be insignificant. So very few in each layer are going to be the winners. And this is how I estimate that ETC is going to be 50% of Bitcoin. My next point is the threats. So there's threats, of course. Everything has risks, and the risk is that for some reason fiat money and central banks stop printing money and suddenly become responsible about sound money, and they keep the supply of dollars steady, or they even shrink the supply of dollars in the long term. I think that is impossible, but it is a risk. Why do I think it's impossible? Because you have in a country like the United States, and this is the situation in Europe and Asia, all advanced economies are in the same situation. The national debt is enormous. It's 127% of the GDP. And this is because they spend a lot and they have huge deficits. And to finance those deficits, they end up printing money to buy bonds of the country. Um, However, it could happen. This is a risk. It could happen that for some reason governments become responsible and they close the gap and they reduce deficits, or they start having surplus, and they start paying back debt, and they reduce the debt, so they stop printing money. I think that's not possible. I come from Argentina and from Latin America, and the experience is that once countries reach a certain level of debt deficit, um, their ability to stop printing money diminishes, and this is what's happened with the fiat experiment in the last 50 years in advanced economies as well. The other threat is that maybe this is the announcement of the merge of Ethereum, where they are going to move from proof of work to proof of stake. This is another threat. Maybe the merge fails and Ethereum 1.0 stays at the base layer as a smart contracts blockchain, and ETC stays number 6 and doesn't go up to number 2. So this is another threat. I think that it's going to happen this year. They, their estimate is that it might happen in the first 6 months of 2022, and I think that it's finally going to happen. Here's where they put approximately Q2 of 2022. But because this language is ambiguous and they always use estimates and they don't have fixed dates or anything like that, and because they've been trying to do this merge since 2016, more or less, the last 5 years, and they have never done it, it is a risk, and that they don't merge to Ethereum 2.0, and therefore ETC doesn't go up in the ranks as I estimate. In that case, the price of ETC may stay at around 100 or 200 or 250 without climbing higher in the ranks. The other threat is competition. There is, for example, there are other blockchains in the world that are proof of work and have smart contracts, but they're always number 70, number 80, number 100, number 300 in the ranks. So they're very far away. But there's one that climbed recently. I'm going to show the chart in a minute. And their promise is that they have safer smart contracts because they have a special programming language that makes them safer. They say it's safer than Ethereum and Solidity. They say that they can let dApp developers create no transaction cost dApps, and because I think that they let the dApps themselves pay for the gas. Then they also promise efficient, energy efficient at scale. As network demand increases, Cadena's energy use, the blockchain is called Cadena, remains constant. Its unique architecture makes it the only platform that can deliver increased energy efficiency as transactions per second scale. So basically, as it grows, they spend the same amount of energy. That's weird, because when you have more miners competing for blocks in Bitcoin and Ethereum Classic, they have to spend more energy, and actually spending more energy is what makes them secure. So being flat in terms of energy or use doesn't make any sense in terms of security. Then they have proven security. They say that our founders' experience at JP Morgan revealed the limitations of existing blockchain solutions to solve for the security and throughput demands of financial services clients. Cadena runs a proof of work, which is reliable, secure, and battle hardened. What they mean here is that this proof of work is sharded, so it's fragmented. And that's how they reach this goal of industrial scalability. Unlike other platforms, Cadena is designed to power global financial systems. Our protocol continually scales to higher transactions per second as more chains are added to the network. So that's the concept of fragmentation. So not only do they shard proof of work, where they have proof of work building blocks for different chains, but also the database is fragmented and sharded, which violates, again, Nakamoto consensus and the fundamental features of security of the base layer blockchain. So nevertheless, it's a threat that other chains can come with new technologies than Ethereum Classic. Ethereum Classic is fully replicated proof of work. Only one, they produce only one block per every 15 seconds. One set of miners builds for the whole blockchain, because that's the way to get all the energy concentrated in one point of security, and that's what provides all the benefits of a blockchain. So I don't know how these guys can promise everything at the same time, scalability, security, but I don't think it's physically possible to provide everything at the same time. Nevertheless, it's a risk, and it became, Cadena for me became a competitor of Ethereum Classic very recently when it suddenly went up in price. It went up to nearly here 24, and it had a market cap of $2 or $3 billion, while ETC was $6 or $7 billion, and now it crashed with the rest of the market. So this is what I said. Now Cadena is in the ranks. Let me see. It's number 86. ETC is number 37. But it's a competition. The concept of this idea, what I'm showing here, is that competition. There could be some other blockchain that suddenly pops up and for some reason is used more than ETC. Again, I don't think it's possible, because ETC has the features that I showed before. Cadena, to be able to be different, they have to resort to these changes like sharding and fragmentation and sharded proof of work and stuff like that to be able to be more scalable. It's not possible to be scalable and secure at the same time. You have to. It's a trade-off. You have to be one or the other. Okay, so going back to ETC, it has performed very well in the whole cycle. This is transactions per second. You can see here all the proof of work blockchains that I selected, and in the last day, for example, you can see there Bitcoin processed 272,000 transactions, Ethereum 1.19 million transactions. ETC has the capacity to process the amount of transactions as Ethereum. Dogecoin 42,000, Litecoin 112,000, and Ethereum Classic 70,000 transactions in the last day. It's been stable at around 70,000. Sometimes it's 150,000. Sometimes it goes down to 60,000, but it's been very stable here. Bitcoin Cash, which is higher in the ranks, only 44,000 transactions, and Zcash less than 5,000 transactions per day. So as you can see here, in terms of use and transactions per day, Ethereum Classic is bigger than Dogecoin and Bitcoin Cash. So this is consistent with what I think that is going to happen, that is going to surpass those chains. And it's going to even process more transactions than Litecoin. So in summary, these are my price targets. I stick to my price targets. It all depends on gold, that Bitcoin continues to grow and it surpasses gold in the long term. I think this is going to be faster than we think, and that ETC is going to reach in the end 50% of the value of Bitcoin. And I think that ETC this year is going to be 1,000, in 2025 8,700, and in 2029 33,000. Thank you very much.